Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's September 7th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And start out looking at the daily chart. You can see we had a big rally today. Um, Not completely unexpected. We were way oversold here, and now we've relieved that. It looks like we're closing right there at the midline. We could turn back down again and take another stab to the downside. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if we rallied a little bit here and then turned back down. Um, but there it is. You can see fairly bullish day. Uh, Early on, it looked like it could be a range day, but in the end, we rallied and went higher here. So it wasn't a lot of good long opportunities today, but there are some. Just kind of been the way the market's been lately is that we get these rallies or big sales, and we just don't get a lot of chances to enter them. A lot of clean and easy entries, and that's just the way the market is. This market's still very volatile, very finicky, and you get a lot of sideways stuff. It was mostly up today, but it would you'd get a burst up and then you'd get a correction or sideways and another burst up, and you just didn't get a consistent flow of consistently going higher all day, or a lot of times consistently lower all day. So it makes it a little harder to trade, but we got to trade what the market gives us, and that's just the way it is right now. So let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart and we'll take a look at it. Not a lot of trades today, so it probably won't take long to get through it. But let's flip over there and take. Okay, here it is, and you can see that it looks like a spike in channel up to me. Uh, this looks like it's a little lower here, like so. Another trader sent me their chart, and they had an earlier channel off the lows down here. I could never make mine fit, so I didn't really like it. And this one didn't get confirmed till almost lunchtime. So really, you needed to be trading all your shorter term trends and ranges and stuff to begin with. But once you found this channel, you still didn't really have a good idea where to go higher. Originally, I had it right along here, and it looked pretty valid because it turned down multiple times across there. And maybe that is an overshoot, I don't know, but when you drag this all the way up, it fits at the end, and that midline looks relatively accurate as well. So this looks to be it for me. So this didn't really help you a lot. I think if you use the shorter term stuff until right here and then use the green channel, I think you were probably better off. That's the way I traded it. So anyway, I do think if you saw the blue one, it's correct. And if you could get one to fit off the lows, that's probably okay. I could never make mine fit right, so I didn't trust it. And in the end, I think it's a spike up that went into this channel. And so I believe this one's to be the most accurate. If your chart looked a little different, maybe it worked out a little different on yours. There wasn't a whole lot of difference between these two. You probably would have had, if you used the lows here, you probably would have had a break here or something, but it would have just kept going. So it wouldn't have worked out right either. So, but anyway, let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades. Again, there's not a whole lot of them. There's a few early on, and then it just got really sparse in the afternoon. But let's zoom in here and go through the trades. And we actually trended up and had a big overshoot. There's a channel working up here. I don't have it on there. You could draw on this a couple of different ways. I really think that we didn't start higher until this is the way I would have played it right here. That's where we really took the big move up, and we came up here, we got a break, and we tried to go higher multiple times before it sold off. And then I drew this channel working lower, and there's probably a tighter one here too. It works out the same either way. You still get your break here, two-leg break, and then a second entry short right there. So, but it was clear we were going lower. You had this nice move down, and then a correction here, and notice you got to move up. First entry, move up, and it actually made a little double top here before it created a second entry short. Now, you could trade this. I wouldn't be afraid to probably trade this when we on the engulfing bar going short one tick below this bar right here. But A lot of times you're better off to wait and let this thing close to make sure it's going to close bearish, which it does. And I wouldn't have a problem going short right here. It's still a second entry short. And in case somebody asks, somebody always asks me, I don't always draw these. Sometimes they're pretty obvious. You got one working up a closeout side and you high. And then sometimes if there's only like 3 bars, it's not really even enough to get a good trend. Like right here, it doesn't mean there's not a little trend there, but it's just really hard to get a feel for that on 3 bars. And so if there's not at least 4 more bars, it's kind of hard to get a really good, and even sometimes you need more than that. So it just depends. But as you get more experience and time doing this, you'll start to realize when you got to wait on a channel to play out and when you don't. And until then, if you're not sure, just don't take the trade. That's the rule. If you're not 100% sure that your read is correct, don't take the trade. Even if you, at the end of the day, you see that I marked it, you thought, well, I knew I should have taken that. That doesn't mean anything. It's what you thought at the time of the trade and what you saw. And if you weren't 100% confident that your read was perfect and that you were trading a sure thing, then just don't take the trade. I mean, that's all I know to tell you until you get more experienced at this. And early on, people, can't even begin to figure out how we do this. But as you get more, this is a skill, and as you get more skilled at it, it gets easier. Trust me. And it doesn't come quickly though. A lot of people think they're going to read a manual, study a little bit, start trading, and in a few weeks start making money, or even a few months. This is a professional skill, and you're going to get skilled professionals that have been doing this for years and years. It's like trying to go play professional baseball or professional football. You can't just pick up a baseball or a bat and go play in the World Series and expect to be very good at it. Now, if even if you don't have a lot of skills, if you practice with a bat every day against those guys, eventually you probably start to get a few hits and you might be able to hit the ball. And it's no different with this. You can't just pick up a chart and open an account and read a book and practice for a few weeks or a couple of months and think you're going to come in here and beat professionals that have been doing this, that are skilled and been doing this for years. You're not going to do it. You've got to get the experience. You've got to get the screen time. And that's one reason this takes so long. You got to not only you have to learn what we do and how to read this chart, but then you got to go out and get real-time experience trading it, getting skilled at it. And so it just takes a while, but I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. But there's also a triple test there. Notice how we try to go wire once, twice, 3 times. You might look at this still part of the same move, but there's clearly 3 spikes up that fail, and that's a second entry short. I like going short there. And that's a good trade right out the bat that just drops. Should get an easy runner off that. Depending on how you played it, whether it was then go, probably both of them, you might get a scalp out of that. But anyway, it drops down, makes a new low, kind of bounces sideways. Unfortunately, you get some bounces out here, but you don't get one that gives you enough room without resistance right there until finally you bust out of there. You come back, you get a first entry, come back and bounce right off the support and get a second entry. Nice bullish bar. I like going long there. And you can clearly see there's a lot of support down here. This is even higher than what we had previously. And then we run up, and I missed this other second entry here. Meant to mark this one. Well, actually, no, I didn't. Now I know why I didn't mark it, because that was an inside bar. I still kind of like that trade. You might still mark that green. But this made a slightly lower, so that's technically your signal bar, and this is an inside bar. But because you don't have a trend line confirmed yet, it doesn't get confirmed till here, that makes that a little more iffy. So, I mean, I'll mark it green, but originally I didn't even want to mark it just because it was an inside bar. Then we make another run up, we come back, we bounce off that trend line, but you just don't get a setup there. It just kind of looks real, I mean, you can clearly see it right there. It's real congested. The signal bar is not very pretty at all. Doesn't meet our criteria. In other words, you can see that's a very bearish I wouldn't say. I mean, it's close. It's getting close to closing in the top 1/3, but I'd skip it. See if you get a higher low or a failure or something, because you do make a new low there, but you never get it. It just takes off, and you just keep chopping higher. There is another second entry long here, and we did bounce off the EMA right there. Um, and again, it's not quite closing in the top third. It's close, so it's another one that maybe you consider. And of course, you pull back here and just get a first entry, and then suddenly we're going the other way. But you run down right here. You got a clear channel working down, and you run up, you get a first entry and then a second entry. And again, I didn't draw this. It really probably starts right here, and you just don't have enough bars really. I mean, more than anything, this looks like sideways congestion with the failed breakout. That's the way it really looks to me, because you can't really get a good trend on that. I mean, maybe you could draw one here, but there's only 3 bars, so you know, it look up to me. This is congestion with 2 legs up on a failed breakout, giving you a second entry short with a decent signal bar, plenty of room back to the previous resistance in case it acts as support, and plenty of room back to here. And we're probably going to make a new low, and again the bottom just drops out of it. That turns out to be another really nice trade that you probably get a runner on. And then we turn up. We should be at this point, you might have drawn this down here, but there's no way to know whether we're heading lower here or higher. And so once it's played out, you just got to assume we're going higher. And you don't really get a chance to enter this one before it's over. Then you're kind of chopping along. But notice you got a new high. You try to go higher once, twice. And when this fails, this actually breaks higher and then turns down. You could just wait and go short right there. You might trade that one on the engulfing, but again, I think it's one you'd be better off to wait and make sure the bar's bearish, because it's a little sideways looking there too. And we do run on down, and you kind of set your trend line right there. And we bounce. I don't think you want to go long there. Wait on something else. And it looks like you got a reversal here, but notice how we're sideways, and that bar has no body really. And they're up, down. Just, you can't trade that. Just wait. And then it breaks out and fails out of that congestion. It gives you this big bearish bar, and that's also a 1, 2, 3 triple test. It breaks higher. Look how bearish. There's plenty of room back. Just go short right there. Now, this one doesn't give you a big runner, but you just still get a runner out of it. Then it fails out the other side and takes off to the upside. And again, I don't see anything here that you can enter on that. And that's what I was talking about, what I was alluding to in the on the daily chart, is you go sideways, and then all of a sudden you get a burst, and sometimes you just don't get a chance to enter it. I mean, if this bar is a little lower and you got time and you got a chance to get in before you can get to here to the resistance, you could probably enter there. But that bar is so big, you need to wait on something different, and you just don't get anything different. I mean, you get a little pullback right here, but that looks congested, and you don't want to go long way up here that far away from the EMA. So it's just that sometimes you get this stuff, and it's just not much you can do about it. But this channel runs up, and you get a break, and we try to go higher once, twice, 3 times, and it fails. Again, you might trade that on the engulfing bar, but I'd probably wait. And then it's a little close to the low there too, so it's not a perfect setup. It doesn't, but a triple test and it closes below the EMA, there's a good chance you'd get a scalp out of that. But so you got to be careful with that one though. It looks a little sideways, but we are making lower low and lower high right there, so you'd expect probably another lower low here. The problem is it's really close to that low line. I may have a little bit higher than it should be. It's probably more like that right there. And so just be careful with that one. But come back, we bounce. We actually get a close outside with the first entry, and then it tries to go higher and turns down. It's a second entry short when it goes past that. I don't think I'd wait and go short down here. If you did, you get burned. But if you want to trade it on that engulfing bar, maybe you go short right there on the second entry. And you do have enough, there's enough room there to get out if it's going to make a new low. And But down here, you've already made a new low, and it could reverse or go to just what it did, go sideways, and you don't get a chance to get out, and you don't get your scalp. So uh, we actually bounce here, a little more than a measured move, and we come back again. And so, I mean, I don't see anything in there. Maybe you go short right there, but it's so close to that support resistance line, and it may act as support like it did here, and you get burned. So I don't think you can go short there. I don't think you want to go long right into that resistance, even though it takes off. So again, you just burst off, and you don't get a chance to enter it. There's no high or low. I mean, it's a really kind of weird trading. Um, it's unfortunate that we're just not getting it. And then this one runs up, and like the last one, it never makes a high, and it just kind of works its way. It's really just working sideways until it drops out. It makes pretty much a little more than a measured move, and then it bounces. Now, you might take that trade right there just because it's made the measured move here based on the width of the pink range, and it's a really good bullish bar a little ways away from the EMA, and you would expect prices to come back and test this breakout level, even if it's going to go lower. So it's not a high probability trade, but it's one of those trades where sometimes you catch it, it's an important low, and it keeps trending higher. And that was a chance here based on the possibility of the blue channel that we could go higher. So maybe you take that trade. And you can see it just gets back in the range, and before long it comes back down, it bounces off that trend line again. But once again, you got a little channel working down here, and you don't get a close outside. You get a close outside, and looks like you're going to get a new low, and you never do. But that's because it's bouncing off a trend line here, and it ends up going higher. So that's a higher low. It breaks lower first and turns up. I don't think I would trade that on the engulfing bar, but I kind of like going long right there because it's a higher low off that trend line. You'll probably get a second leg up, even if it's going to turn down. And then suddenly it looks, you would have already scalped out of this, and then suddenly it looks like it's going to turn down. But that bar is not good enough. And you can't take that one. But when that ticks one lower, tick lower, and almost at the close, and then turns up, that's a failure. And I like going long there. You can see that one rockets off. That was finally you get a chance to catch one of those nice moves. And there is a trend working up here. I didn't draw it on there, but let's just draw it on. It doesn't change anything. I mean, I don't like entering anything this far away from the EMA up here unless you get one of these runaway trends, and we hadn't had anything like that today. You get these nice little bursts of momentum, and then it just peters out and turns back down again, which is what happens here. And I don't see anything here. There's a lower high here, but you can't trade that. Failure here, it's on the wrong side of the EMA, and then suddenly we got a trend running up, and then we're turning back down again. We just keep flip-flopping, and it just keeps flip-flopping up and down until we finally confirm this green trend right here. But you get a break, move to a new low, and I like this one just because you got to close outside a new low, and then you got 2-bar matching low, and the trend line holds. You can see it held 3 times there. And so if we break higher, we're probably going to go higher. You don't know that it's going to rocket off again, but once again, it takes off. And this one, you get a little better chance to enter it. The only reason I marked this one, didn't mark this one blue, is because it looks a little congested there. But that's because they're trying to take it lower, and there's support there. But this khaki down channel is played out, and it held 3 times, and so that's like a little triple test really right there. It's not what we call an ideal, but it's the same thing. We tried to go lower 3 different times there. So if it breaks higher, and you can see what happens, it takes off. So we got, if you want to be a little aggressive, it does have a 2-bar matching low, making a little double bottom there. But if you don't get that one, then you don't get another chance. It just rockets off. And then same thing, it rockets down, just turns. This one, at least you do get a warning, but I don't think there's a setup up here. This is actually a second entry short, and I went back and forth about where to whether to mark that or not. Notice you got a new low and you turn down first entry, and then it turns back up and breaks higher again before it turns down. I meant to at least mark that in green, but I really, because this has turned into a pretty strong trend, I'm a little leery of that one. So I didn't really want to mark it blue, but I think you're okay to mark it. And if you took that trade, you're probably okay. There's still plenty of room to get out, and we've moved a long way here. But this is a fairly strong trend, and you can see we've been bouncing at the midline. So that's the you definitely wouldn't want to enter that on the engulfing bar because you could get hung up on that midline. But when it closes down here, maybe you take that trade. I still think you're better off to wait on a long. And it runs down here. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing off the hook. I finally turned the ringer off. But anyway, we bounced a couple times. It looks very similar to this, and the fact that it bounced here before, I liked, and this is a higher low on top of that. I like that trade. It's a little congested, but again, it's like a little repeat here, except you get a higher low, and you're still a long way away from the EMA there. And it's right off the key entry point, and you can see that key entry point held multiple times. It looked like it was going to fail for a minute there, but it ends up taking off. And so once again, it just takes off, and you don't get another chance to enter. But this time, you at least had something with some. I felt like this was good enough to call it blue, just because it looks. We always saw something like that. It looks very similar. We tested that trend line multiple times. It's obvious it's valid. And we're a little bit away from the EMA. This is played out coming down. So I like that trade. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get on a day like this because we haven't, you see, once they take off, you don't get a chance to enter them. Here, maybe you call that a triple test. I think you're pushing it. I think it's not really a triple test till here, and then I just marked it green. Even though it's a triple test, it's a iffy signal bar, and it closes below the EMA, and it's not quite back to the trend line. I marked it. I'm not crazy about it, but we did bounce there multiple times, and you at least had a triple test there. So, and you don't get much out of it. It runs up. All you get is a scalp out of that. For it, you can kind of see the trends losing momentum here. We can't even get back to the green midline now. And we finally get a close outside, move to a new high, and that takes us into 230. And there is a second entry here that would have been nice to trade, but your signal bar is no good, at least on my chart. If you got a good signal bar there, take that trade probably, because that's the first break of that green channel. And it's been going since 11:30, and here it is 2:30. So I think that one's probably worth taking. But anyway, that's the way I saw it today. We're already 23 minutes, and so I'm not going to continue this one on. There's nothing too spectacular about today. Like I said, if you got a chance to enter, you just about had to take it, and or else you don't get a chance. And it's just the way the market is. It chops and moves sideways, and then takes a burst, and the bursts never follow through. They correct or go sideways, and then it did that to the downside early, and then did that to the upside as the day progressed. And you get days like this. It's just the way it goes. And if you don't get an early entry, you just don't get a chance to enter, and you just have to watch it go without you. But the main thing is, don't try to chase a trend like this, because you watch it and watch it, and you finally say, okay, I'm gonna enter right here, and it moves up, and it comes back and stops you out, and then goes right where you think it does. That's what'll happen to you. So you got to be real careful not to get antsy, not to let the market trick you or shake you into entering a bad trade. Wait on the good trades. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday is going to wrap up our week. Short week due to the 3-day weekend we had with Monday holiday. But maybe we'll get another rally or another big sell-off day tomorrow with a lot of trades and kind of make the week a little better. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.